2.1 gigawatts, a Marvel fanfiction written by lunasquared on AO3. Mr. Stark, Peter exclaimed as he ran into the lab, barely braking fast enough not to run into a table. I need help. Shit, kid, what's wrong? Who's hurt? Whose ass do we need to kick? Asked Tony, already pulling out his phone. Wait, no. It's not like that. It's something bad, I promise, Peter said, waving his hands frantically to get Tony to stop. Remember when you said I could come to you for anything? Yeah, Tony said, with a questioning look towards Peter's direction. So, because Halloween is Saturday, Friday is a costume day. It's like kid-parent costume day. Like couples costumes, or ironic duos, basically. And Aunt May is working that day, so I was wondering if you maybe wanted to do a costume with me? Tony tried to hold back a smile that worked its way onto his face. The kid was so embarrassed right now, asking, and Tony could see the nervousness yet excitement as he rocked back and forth on his feet. Yeah, kid, I'd love to do a costume with you, Tony said, and he hoped Friday took a photo of the grin on Peter's face. Tony never wanted to forget it. I'm honored you'd ask, kiddo. Really? Thank you so much, Mr. Stark. Doing a little happy jump with flappy hands before rushing to give Tony a hug. I already have a great idea for costumes. Oh, really? Look, kid, when you said iconic duos, this is not what I thought you meant, Tony said, looking at the fish costume he was wearing. I was all for it, but this is the best you've got? Peter, who was also wearing a fish costume next to Tony, flashed a grin. I mean, come on, Mr. Stark, I think it's really fitting. I'm Nemo, and you're Nemo's dad. I don't understand how this is fitting, Tony said. Plus, I refuse to show up to your school like this. Fine, Peter groaned. Any better ideas? Yeah, I think I got something, Tony said, already turning back to the room to change when he heard the elevator open. Of course, today, of all days, was when Rhodey decided to show up. Oh, this is good, Rhodey said, while staring at Tony before bursting out into laughter. Hardy har har. Get your laughs out, honey bear. You won't be laughing when we win this thing at Pete's school. It's not a contest, Mr. Stark, Peter said, joining in with Rhodey laughing. Oh, and you bet your ass we're still gonna win, Tony said, shooting both of them a look. Are you guys done? 1 second, Rhodey said, still laughing. Tony turned around and walked down the hallway as Rhodey and Peter laughed even harder. Friday, you took a picture, right? Tony heard Rhodey say as he got to his room. Pepper turned when Peter and Tony walked into her office with their new costumes on. Yeah, I think that works. Peter and Tony high-fived each other while Pepper continued to laugh. What time do you need to be there, kiddo? Tony asked Peter over the phone on the Friday morning. It starts at 1, but the said parents need to arrive at 12:30 in the gym, Peter said. I'll be there, kid. Love you. Me too. See you in a bit, Peter said as he hung up the phone. Who was that? Ned asked as Peter shoved his phone into his jacket pocket. That was Mr. Stark, Peter said casually, and laughed when Ned's face turned to one of shock. You didn't tell me you were doing a costume with Mr. Stark, Ned exclaimed, causing Peter to wince at the volume. Yeah, it's... Flash came over, cutting Peter off. Wait, you got Mr. Stark to do a costume with you? Peter just smiled and nodded. Yeah, so cool, right? Well, me and my dad are going to do the costume contest. So, beat that, Peter, Flash said jokingly. Just make like a tree and leave, Flash, Peter joked, and Flash laughed with Peter. I don't understand what Joker reference that was, but fine, Flash said with a laugh before walking back to his seat as Peter turned to Ned. Dude, I'm so glad we're friends with him now. It's so much better like this. Ned nodded his head in agreement, but couldn't keep a smile off his face. Wait, didn't you tell me that you're... I know, right? So cool. Hey, what's up, Doc? Peter greeted Tony, giving him a hug when he got to the school. Hey, McFly, Tony said, returning the hug. Love the outfit. Peter looked down at his outfit and threw up a peace sign. Thanks, Doc. I still don't know why you have this in your closet, but I really hope I get to hear that story later. But for now, I'm keeping it. Of course, later, Tony would be telling Peter the story about how he got his jacket when the movie came out. He was so obsessed with it, and Tony saw this in theaters at least 10 times. Then, when it came out on VHS, Tony had gotten a hold of it the first chance he had, which also happened to be around the same time he got the jacket. Rhodey had ended up making fun of him, so he was Tony's style for a few months. Tony laughed and ruffled Peter's hair. I wouldn't expect any less, kid. Peter and Tony walked through the gym and looked at some of the Halloween costume-themed activities that a few clubs at the school had set up for parents and students to do. When they reached the other side of the gym, Tony's eyes widened and he grabbed Peter's hand, pulling him alone. Mr. Stark, where are we going? To the future, of course, Tony laughed. I'm kidding. But when you said it wasn't a costume contest, I think it is. Peter actually looked at where they were going now, and sure enough, there were sign-ups for a costume contest. He just laughed and let Tony practically drag him to where the sign-ups were. In the end of the costume contest, and now everyone, including Peter and Tony, were standing on the stage. In second place, we have Flash and his dad, Mr. Thompson, dressed as Batman and Robin. Mr. Harrington announced and everyone cheered. Peter clapped and gave Flash a little smile and thumbs up, silently congratulating him from the other side of the stage. And in first place, Mr. Harrington gave a drum roll, Peter Parker and Tony Stark as Marty McFly and Dr. Emmett Brown. Everyone cheered again, and Peter and Tony high-fived. Are you guys willing to do a scene with us? Mr. Harrington asked. Why not? Come on, kid. Tony grabbed the microphone, and Mr. Harrington held out for him and handed one to Peter. Peter cleared his throat and looked at Tony, trying not to laugh, before saying in his best Marty McFly impression, Wait, Doc, are you telling me you built a time machine out of a DeLorean? The way I see it, if you're going to build a time machine, why not do it with some style? Tony said, barely keeping a straight face before bursting out into laughing. Peter laughed too and handed the microphone back to Mr. Harrington. Great job to everyone who participated in the contest, Mr. Harrington said, and Tony and Peter were still laughing. Thank you for doing this again, Mr. Stark, Peter said, and Tony walked out of the school. Of course, kiddo. I wouldn't leave you hanging for something like this, Tony said, throwing an arm over Peter's shoulder. You're out having a good day at work? I think so, Peter said, leaning at Tony's side. I think it will be better when we send our pictures. I agree. Oh yeah, kid, one more thing. Peter was confused for a second until he heard a car beep and looked at something, a smile forming on his face. You brought the DeLorean? Peter exclaimed. I brought the DeLorean. So what do you power it with? Peter asked with a smirk. 1.21 gigawatts, of course.